Hey guys, this is Bruce and I do security compliance. What you're looking at here is my new security compliance course, and if you're interested in it, hit the link. If you're interested in hearing from somebody who's been doing this since 2000, from the military to civilian and to different agencies, I have a lot of experience, and basically I'm telling you how to do it from a practical standpoint. Actually, what happens, what goes through an information system security officer's mind to get through this process. Let me just read to you this question here. It says, "Hi Bruce, thank you for your course." That was a free course that I did a while ago. "Please, can you help me to understand how to apply the NIST framework in terms of a scenario? I'm new to security and would really like to understand it. Thank you for the information. It really helped me." Okay, so I want to give you a real world scenario, right? Just like kind of like what I did here. Now this one goes into way more detail, but I can give you something here completely free right now. All right, so what is NIST? What is the framework? What is it all about? It's all about what you see here, and it's about applying basic security principles to this entire life cycle so that a system is completely not risk-free. Nothing is risk-free, but it limits and it manages the risk of a system. What do I mean by system? I mean an asset. I mean an important system that holds important data. Data like maybe social security numbers, or maybe it holds important satellite information that's sent to a ground troop somewhere, or maybe it's a system that handles checking for a certain part of some department in a government somewhere. These are important systems that are handling important data. If they go down, there's some sort of an impact to the organization, to people. People could literally die in some cases. So these are important assets to a government agency normally. All right, so what are you looking at here? What's this wheel all about? Well, this is a process that takes you through protecting that asset. Let's say we have a system B. Let's call it system B. And that system B, it sends important ground information to troops that are in combat zones. It tells you where the enemy is located. It tells you where your resources are. It tells you where supply lines are. And you have to protect this data, because if this data leaked out, it could go to your enemies, and then people could die. Your troops could die. It would be a huge impact to your government or to your organization. You could lose millions of dollars, and you could lose lives, and it could be a dent in national security. So how do we protect this asset? How do we protect System B? Well, this whole system here, this system that you see here, is designed to protect the system from birth to death, from cradle to grave. And it starts off with that piece in the middle called prepare. The first thing you do as an information system security officer, we're looking at this from the perspective of an information system security officer, because there's many different stakeholders in this, by the way. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're looking at this from the perspective of an information system security officer. They're going to prepare to start this whole process. How do they do that? They reach out to people. They find out who are the subject matter experts on the system. Who knows the system? Who are your engineers of the system? Who are the leaders of the system? They're going to prepare by getting all those people together. The next step they're going to do is they're going to categorize the system. They're going to do a security categorization, and that's going to tell you the impact level of that system. Is it a low, moderate, or a high system? That's what you have to determine. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you come into a new job, they're going to already know that. The organization is already going to know what the low, medium, high is, but the thing is, you have to know how that process works. How did they arrive to that? So that you can know are they off a little bit? Are there other security controls that we need to apply? So that's categorization. Then we talk about selecting controls. Once you've categorized the security impact of the system, you've got to select the controls, so security controls. Security controls are just an example of a security control would be like your login and password. Your PIN, if you have that. Your multi-factor authentication is another security control. Another one might be audit logs. Another one might be that not all of them are technical. You could have physical security is also a security control that is addressed in the NIST standards. So you got to select a group of controls. How do you select those security controls for System B? Well, That's determined by your categorization of the system. So now we've categorized the system. We have security controls of the system, system B, and now we have to implement those controls. Implementation is just what it says. That's exactly the meaning of implementing controls. There's that step is you're going to implement those security controls. You're going to install multi-factor authentication. That's if the controls call for that. If the selection of the controls call for that. You're going to make sure that there's physical security there. You're going to make sure that there's audit logs there if the controls call for that. So after you have implemented the controls, now you have to assess the controls. That means you have to make sure that those security controls are in place by doing some testing, by conducting interviews. Maybe it's even just doing a walkthrough. Sometimes it's not you that does the assessment. Sometimes you have a third party come into your organization and they do an audit of your controls to see how effective the controls have been put in place. The next step is authorization. You've selected the controls. You know the impact of the system because you have the security categorization. You've implemented the controls. You've done an assessment. You have all these documents that verify that these security controls are in place. Now you're going to send all that documentation forward to someone who is going to authorize the operations of this system and say, yes, I can see that the risk has been managed on this system. We've looked at the controls. We've had a third-party assessor come in and audit the controls. They're in place. We've documented everything. I approve this system. The last step that you see there, that last step there is monitor controls. What you're doing is, it's not just something that you just start and finish. Monitoring means you're going to do this continuously. You're going to always monitor the security levels of the system. Are the security controls in place? Are they implemented properly? And every so often, annually, you're going to do an assessment on the controls. And sometimes you're going to have to reauthorize the controls. That's what monitoring means. You're looking at the security posture of the system from the time it's created to the time it ends. So monitoring is done continuously. Now, this whole process, what do you do? Now, I want to answer the actual question. What do you do for System B? You are coordinating with other organizations to make sure that this process keeps going. Now, there's many different roles that an information system security officer takes, not just documentation. Sometimes they're actually helping to implement the security controls in the implementation phase. Sometimes they're actually helping to categorize the system. Sometimes they're helping to find the security controls to make sure that the proper security controls have been implemented on the system. Or sometimes they're actually taking controls out. Let's say that System B has a control for Wi-Fi, but you guys don't have Wi-Fi in your facility anywhere. So you would tailor that out of your system control. You would set up a meeting. You would go to the stakeholders. That means talking to the managers, the system engineers, and you say, okay, this control, I can see that we have this Wi-Fi security control here, but we don't do Wi-Fi here anywhere in this facility. We're going to tailor this one out. We're not going to do any documentation except to say that we don't do this, and here's why. These are the types of things that you would do as a system security officer for System B, our case study. So another thing that you do, aside from meetings, aside from documentation, aside from sometimes applying technical controls, is that you have to make aware certain issues on the system. If you find something, if there's a new vulnerability, sometimes you're tasked with actually doing threat assessments. What are new risks and threats that are coming in from your environment that you have to address? Maybe you live in a flood zone. What are the chances that a flood could happen in this area that you're in this environment, and actually take out the system just by some kind of natural phenomenon? Those are the things that you'd have to maybe talk to disaster recovery people and figure out, how are we going to protect the system from this floodplain? Our system's on a floodplain. How can we address this? Do we need an alternate site? Is System B that important that we need an alternate site? You, as the information system security officer, would sit in these meetings and you would make your team aware of the laws that are in place, the standards, the laws, the policies, and the procedures that are in place to protect this system. You are an integral part of helping to protect the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the system, the security objectives of the system. That is your primary goal in all cases, whether you're technical, whether you're in more of a management type role, or whether you're in a role that's somewhere in between where you're just doing documentation and policy and stuff. That's the kind of thing that I talk about on a very much deeper level in this course right here. So if you're interested in knowing more about Information System Security Officer work, if you want to know where all of the documentation is, what are the standards that you have to read to, what have I looked at as an Information System Security Officer, what have I looked at that have been my most critical resources to actually getting this done for many different departments, from 3-letter agencies to aeronautical agencies to defense agencies. What have I gone to over and over again to get these things done? I'm going to give you those resources. I'm going to tell you what it's like as an Information System Security Officer to actually do this job. It's very rewarding, and so that's why I've decided to talk about it, and I've actually taught this before in the past, and I'm going to be adding more information to this. It's already got a lot, by the way, but I'm going to be adding more to this, even separate modules, entirely separate things that I'm going to do that are going to complement this. But this is a really good first start in telling you what an Information System Security Officer does. And if you are not planning on getting any jobs in the US, so you probably don't need the NIST standards, one of the really good things about the NIST is that it lines up with other international frameworks such as PCI DSS, which is the framework for credit cards. So if you know this system, it actually can help you with this because it actually aligns with that one. It lines up with the international standards. It lines up with banking standards. Once you understand this framework, you'll better understand all those other frameworks out there that protect health agencies, that protect banks, that protect other countries' governmental systems. It is extremely effective because it actually was created lined up with those other international standards. That's the amazing thing to me. I'm blown away all the time with how similar it is to these international standards. So much so that I can read the international standards and I know exactly where that fits in with the NIST standards. Now, who is this for? This is for you if you have a new job doing NIST. If you're a new Information System Security Officer and you want to know how these things work from a practical perspective. If you're trying to take the CAP test or any other risk management framework type tests, this could actually also help you because it walks you through each one of the steps and then it tells you where the resources are and it tells you the why of these steps as well. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope it answers some questions and I'll see you on the next one.